According to Islam's most trusted sources, Muhammad, the prophet of Islam, had sex with a prepubescent 9-year-old girl. And we know that Aisha hadn't reached puberty because the Muslim sources talk about her playing with dolls in the presence of Muhammad. And according to Muslim scholars, girls were allowed to play with dolls only up until the age of puberty. Once they reached puberty, dolls were considered images and they were no longer allowed to play with them. We have all kinds of reasons for believing that Aisha had not reached puberty, according to the Muslim sources. But there are some hadiths that Muslims use in the West to show that Aisha had, in fact, reached puberty. And let's go ahead and take a look at an example. This is Sunan Abu Dawud, number 4933 or 4915, depending on which edition you're using. And let's go ahead and read something interesting here. So this is about Aisha being taken to the house of Muhammad to consummate the marriage with her. So Aisha narrated, "The Messenger of Allah married me when I was 7 or 6. When we came to Medina, some women came. According to Bishr's version, Ruman came to me when I was swinging. They took me, made me prepared, and decorated me. I was then brought to the Messenger of Allah, and he took up cohabitation with me when I was 9. She halted me at the door, and I burst into laughter." Abu Dawud said, "That is to say, I menstruated. And I was brought in a house, and there were some women of the Ansari in it." So here we have, according to Sunan Abu Dawud, that Aisha started menstruating right before she was taken to Muhammad to consummate the marriage. What great timing that would be. But here's the problem. I go to another translation of the exact same hadith. This is the Darussalam edition of Sunan Abu Dawud. And we read, it was narrated that Aisha said, "The Messenger of Allah married me when I was 7 or 6 years old. When we came to Al-Madinah, some women," Bishr said, Ruman, "came to me when I was on a swing and took me and prepared me and adorned me. Then I was brought to the Messenger of Allah, and he consummated the marriage with me when I was 9 years old. She made me stand at the door, and I started to breathe deeply. Then I was brought into a room where there were some of the Ansari." Hey, wait a minute. What happened to the part about Aisha starting to menstruate? It just says that she started to breathe deeply. Well, now I'm confused, everyone. It looked like we had good evidence that Aisha had reached puberty. She had started menstruating when she was taken to Muhammad to consummate the marriage. And there are Muslims around the world who use this hadith to show that Aisha had, in fact, reached puberty. But I look at a different translation of the exact same hadith, and it doesn't say one word about Aisha menstruating. So now I'm just confused. I don't know who to believe here. I don't speak Arabic, so I don't know which one is correct. I'm in a really, really sad spot right now. Oh, wait a minute. Fortunately, I'm here with my good friend Al-Fadi.
David, man, this is an amazing studio you have, man. And the logo, by the way, looks familiar to me.
Yeah, it's pretty cool studio I built for myself here. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you know Arabic, don't you?
Well, the last I checked, yes.
Well, this is some great timing because I was sitting here and I just had no idea what I was going to do. And then you're here. So this is great. So let me go ahead and ask you, since you're here. Now, you've got the Arabic in front of you, right?
Yes, the Arabic that you're just looking at, and I'm trying to pull it here, and maybe they can show it to us right here on the screen as well for everyone else to be looking at it. But your concern is that the English is saying something that you're suspecting the Arabic is not, and that's the focus on puberty.
Yeah, we're getting two different translations. One says she menstruated, the other doesn't say anything about menstruating. So I was hoping you could confirm what Muslims are telling us, that she had, in fact, reached the time of menstruation, and show us that in the Arabic.
Unfortunately, David, your suspicion is correct, and there is no word here in Arabic that denotes the age of puberty or reaching puberty or even anything remotely close to that.
Wow.
Wow is the word,
So,
for sure.
so we can say that either that's just a mistake, it's just an error. Someone messed up the translation, or someone's trying to be deliberately deceptive to make people think that Aisha had reached puberty.
If it is one example, you can say, okay, maybe it's a mistake, but there is an effort here to be deceptive or to try to at least shed the light on something totally different than what the Arabic is saying, taking advantage of the fact that many people probably who will be watching this or reading it are non-Arab.
Let's go ahead and look at a passage in Sahih al-Bukhari, and we're going to see something very similar happening, but this is another example that is used by Muslims to show that Aisha had reached puberty. And here it specifically says that she'd reached puberty. So lots of Muslims go to this passage, and I've seen lots of non-Muslims say, hey, wait a minute, the Hadith does claim that Aisha had reached puberty right here in Sahih al-Bukhari, number 476. So here we have narrated Aisha, the wife of the Prophet. I had seen my parents following Islam since I attained the age of puberty. So, since she reached the age of puberty, she's seen her parents following Islam. We have an idea of when her parents started following Islam. So Aisha must have reached puberty well before her marriage was consummated with Muhammad. And so some conclude that she must have therefore been much older. She must have been 16 or 18 or 21 by the time Muhammad consummated the marriage with her. So here, if it really says that she'd reached puberty, this will contradict some of the other hadiths that say she hadn't, but at least Muslims would have a good case for saying that she'd reached puberty if this is in fact what it says in the Arabic. So could you break down the Arabic where it clearly says right here that she had reached puberty?
There is no word in the Arabic at all denoting puberty. My suspicion is that they took a word here, aqil, meaning recall, or as far as I can remember, and somehow they're connecting this to puberty. That's my only suspicion here.
So this in the Arabic, it doesn't say puberty.
It does not.
You're saying they're interpreting something else to mean puberty for this.
That's right, exactly.
Okay, so you're saying that means something when I could recall.
That's pretty much. I mean, it has to do with the word aql, meaning brain, memory. So they're either thinking of it as far as I can recall, or when I started it to remember things. Somehow they're making a connection here to that.
And there's no connection, right? There's no connection between saying, hey, from the age I could recall things, and saying, oh, that's puberty. As if when you reach puberty, that's when you start being able to remember things, right?
Unless there is a different science that they're following. I'm
Some
not
weird
aware of
stuff.
anything like
unless
that.
You, unless you reach puberty and then you got a head injury, forgot everything, and then all of a sudden, right then, you started remembering things. But I don't know who to believe here, so let's go ahead and take a look at another Muslim translator, Aisha Bewley, one of the most popular Muslim translators in recent years. Let's go ahead and check out her translation of the exact same hadith and see if she agrees with you or if she agrees with those who say that it refers to Aisha reaching puberty. So this is the Aisha Bewley translation there, number 464. It is related that Aisha, the wife of the Prophet, may Allah bless him and grant him peace, said, I have no recollection of my parents doing anything but following the deen of Islam. So she agreed with you. It actually has something to do with remembering certain things.
That's right. And Aisha is taking a unique look here. She's saying what Aisha, the other Aisha, the wife of Muhammad, is saying is that when it comes to religious practices, all I can remember is that my parents were always Muslims. So she's not saying Aisha did not remember things before that, but she's saying from a religious practice of her parents, all she can remember is that both of her parents were actually followers of Islam. So that's the angle.
So now notice, Aisha's parents weren't always Muslims.
Right.
But she's saying as long as she can remember, they were Muslims.
Correct.
But this would mean that she was actually very young, right? Because it would mean she doesn't even remember when her parents were polytheists. She only remembers when they were Muslims. But the other translation we looked at suggests that she'd already reached puberty by the time her parents converted. And so completely different different versions of events.
That's true. And keep in mind, when Muhammad even proposed to marry her, Abu Bakr has been following him for years. He was among the first to follow Muhammad. So this also shows that Aisha is not talking about the moment she married Muhammad. No, she's talking about for as long as she can remember, even before this incident of being proposed to him, that she can recall her parents worshiping idols or doing any of the Quraysh rituals or whatever the case might be. She can remember them just being followers of Islam.
So she was actually young. She was too young to remember when her parents weren't Muslims. Now, so it's very interesting that the other translator would translate that as reaching puberty. When you're saying it doesn't mean that, Aisha Bewley's saying it doesn't mean that. But here's what I find most interesting. I'm going to go to another hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari where it seems to be giving the same beginning of the exact same story. And here they magically translate it accurately. And so look at this. This is Sahih al-Bukhari number 2297, and it's the same thing. Narrated Aisha, wife of the Prophet, since I reached the age when I could remember things, I have seen my parents worshiping according to the right faith of Islam. So here they suddenly know what it means for Aisha to be saying that from the time she could remember anything, she remembers her parents following Islam. So given the Arabic here, is the Arabic the same? In other words, are the two passages talking about the same thing in Arabic?
The Arabic is almost identical. So this is why you can tell it's the English side that is trying to sway things or tilt the balance, if you wish, and try and maybe there is an agenda, as you stated. And you can't blame them. I mean, they know the English audience is going to be disturbed by things like this. So they're trying somehow to lessen the impact and insert the idea of puberty.
And so which is interesting because you can find multiple passages in Bukhari which specifically state that Aisha hadn't reached the age of puberty. They even include some commentary by Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, considered by many to be the greatest hadith scholar of all time, specifically saying that Aisha had not reached puberty when she's taken to Muhammad's house to consummate the marriage. In number 5153 of Sahih al-Bukhari, they even include a reference to Surah 65, verse 4, which says that you can marry and divorce after having sex with a prepubescent girl, and they use that to illustrate Muhammad's relationship with Aisha. So it's just weird that right here in this one spot of Sahih al-Bukhari, they translate something as puberty when, as you're saying, there's no basis for that in the Arabic.
Yeah, and my medical assessment of this is a case called TMRT, the miracle of retranslation.
The miracle of retranslation, ladies and gentlemen. So notice what we can say here. There are Muslims all over the world who are really bothered by Muhammad's relationship with Aisha. They're told all their lives that Muhammad is the greatest man who's ever lived and that he was perfect in every way. And then they find out that Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old girl. And at first they generally deny this. Oh, no, he couldn't have done that. But then we show them the sources. And then they eventually start saying, well, right here in Sahih al-Bukhari, it says that Aisha had reached puberty. But even that is based on a mistranslation, and it's not found in the Arabic. That's very interesting. Now, I want to point out one more thing about why this is so disturbing. So I'm going to pull up here a passage from an article by the Yaqeen Institute. This is Asadullah Ali Andalusi and Jonathan Brown. Jonathan Brown is a world-renowned Islamic scholar. And we have here them using this quotation from Sahih al-Bukhari, and they don't try to actually translate it as puberty, but they say that it refers to puberty. But look at what they say here. Narrated Aisha, I had seen my parents following Islam since I attained the age of reason. So not the age when I can remember things. It's the age when I've gained my reasoning ability. And they're saying that refers to the age of puberty. Not a day passed, but the Prophet visited us both in the mornings and evenings. So they're saying that in the Arabic it refers to the age of reason, and they're saying that's puberty. Which is just silly. Even if you wanted to say age of reason, on what planet do you suddenly begin to reason when you reach puberty?
That's true.
Yeah, there are people who reason really in really sloppy fashion after they reach puberty, and there are very intelligent people before they reach puberty.
I mean, I wish they would give us maybe a medical research that was done and saying, hey, we're relying on this research, and that's why we're assuming the age of reason meant puberty. Mm-hmm. But even when you look at the Arabic, there is no such thing as the age of reason. All she's saying is, for as far as I can remember, mm-hmm. has nothing to do with reason, has nothing to do with knowing right from wrong. This is just remembering thing. Age of reason to me is that you know what is right, you know what is wrong now, mm-hmm. and you're accountable for it.
Yep. And so, you're according to what you're saying, it's actually very simple. She's just saying, hey, as long as I can remember, my parents are following Islam. Very simple, very straightforward. And then you have a mistranslation that then gets used to defend Muhammad. And it's one thing for Muslims to do this. It's one thing for your average Muslim who doesn't know what the Arabic says, who doesn't know how to read this passage and interpret it and understand it, and just reads the English translation and says, oh, there, you see, Aisha had reached puberty. It's one thing for a Muslim like that. They don't know what they're talking about, but I wouldn't think that person is trying to deceive me. But when I see Muslim scholars and they're using it, and they know that it says nothing about puberty, and they're still maintaining that this actually refers to Aisha reaching puberty, I can only assume that they are deliberately trying to deceive their Muslim readers in order to keep their Muslim followers from leaving Islam based on how disturbed they are about this issue.
That is very true, and again, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. At least the Yaqeen Institute, if they can just show us, maybe they have access to a medical research that inserts something like this. I mean, I'm open for the idea. Just let's look at the evidence. Mm-hmm. But this is far-fetched, when you start making claims like this.
So what we have is a simple hadith that makes a simple claim from Aisha, gets twisted and mistranslated, and then Muslims who are desperate to defend their prophet run around the world with a mistranslation, and then actual Muslim scholars use the mistranslation in order to mislead their followers into thinking that Muhammad was better than he actually was. Well, thanks, Al-Fadi, for helping me out, helping me with my confusion here, and showing people that all you Muslims and non-Muslims even who are using these passages to show that Aisha had reached puberty, you're either ignorant of what the Arabic says, or you are deliberately misleading and deceiving people. So think about that. And if you'd like more commentary on Muhammad and the Quran from someone who knows the Arabic and can cut through a lot of the nonsense, be sure to check out Al-Fadi's channel, Sira International.